and getting the goal from Beccari.
I think it was a cross, but at that point, it doesn't matter, right? We'll take it. And then Juve just taking advantage of that momentum. Pinto on that wing wins her 1v1 battle. Sorry, Pinto now on that wing. Great ball in and just taps it in, but terrible defending from Renard. Tarciane, not touch tight, just so passive, but props to Juve for taking advantage of that.
Yeah, and they had one more before the half ended here. Another counter. And this time it's Pinto. She just runs right past Tarciane, and puts this away. But again, it's the weak defending. Yeah. It's the not moving your feet and not anticipating, tracking the deep run from the midfield. And Lyon needed a huge adjustment in the second half.
And they did. This was started the comeback. Lovely pass to Tabitha Chawinga on the wing. And this was just a great finish across the goalkeeper far corner. I think this was the reaction I think Lyon needed, but this was a lovely through ball just inside of the outside back there and just a beautiful finish across the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I agree. That was just a great response from Lyon coming into that second half. And then Basha doing what she does best on that left wing. Great ball in, and Katoto gets up in the air. Perfect header. Wow, nothing the defender could do there.
Yeah, vintage Katoto. It's good to see her get in for Lyon. And they weren't done this time. Schrader puts his ball up. Dumone goes to cross. And it is a clear handball in the 18 by Salvi.
Yeah, it's a Wendy Renard, most experienced player in that team. Doesn't even celebrate. Look at her running, grabbing the ball, running straight back to halftime. I can't even imagine how fuming she must have been at 3-0 down at halftime. But they completely dominated this game. Let's be honest, Lyon. Possession-wise, all the stats.
Yeah, despite being 3-0 down, I mean, to come out in the second half, you can see their stats for the second half are notably a lot better. Darian, what changed for Lyon in this second half?
Well, their subs. I think when they went into halftime, you know, we always say when there's a huge adjustment, I would love to hear what was being said, because this is not the standard that this team plays with. The lackluster defending, the very simple mistakes, the passive, not tracking deep runners from the midfield. To me, that was the big glaring issue for Lyon when I think last match day, we hyped up Lyon's midfield so much. Well, defensively, we haven't seen them have to have that much responsibility where they have to track people running through, where there are open opportunities. But here you see they come in and make a big adjustment in this. But Lyon, I'm concerned with the lack of, it felt like, pride they have in their defensive principles in the first half.
Yeah, and that's Schrader having that strike. But even Schrader as a player with her work rate in the midfield, we saw lacks of, concentration, giving the ball away. I think her coming off the bench, just adding that bit of urgency into the midfield was massive for Lyon in terms of work rate, I think.
And she's a bruiser, too. Yeah. She's not afraid to get stuck in, which I think you guys know when you're on a team and you have a midfielder that's not afraid to get hard into a tackle, that sets the tone, that kind of makes everybody else step off of them. Schrader brought that into the game, and I think she's okay being that pivot player, whereas opposed to Lily Johannes, who was in the first half, likes to get more in the attack. She likes to counter and send those balls forward, and it left them so vulnerable, and that's why we saw Tarciane get pulled out of position so much.
Well, speaking of Tarciane, I don't think you see many defenders get subbed at halftime.
No.
That's hard.
Yeah, what does that feel like when you get subbed at
It's never happened to me.
I forgot who I was talking to.
It's never happened. Thank goodness, though. Can you imagine if we had to explain that moment if we had been?
Geez, I can't imagine what Tarciane was thinking at halftime. But again, right, that center back role, just anywhere on the back line, there's no room for error.
Yeah.
Especially in a match like this where you've already conceded a goal. You have to be better on the second one. You have to be better on the third one. And today she just wasn't it.
And we saw Lyon haven't been really tested up until now. Janelle, do you think they underestimated Juventus?
I think they did underestimate Juve, but for me, I think the starting midfield played a really big role on how Lyon started this first half. I think when you have such an attacking-minded midfield in Johannes, Dumornay, Heaps, you are very vulnerable defensively, like Darian was just saying. So I think for them, you need to have balance in the midfield. And that's what Schrader gave them. And that's why we saw a different face of Lyon in the second half.
Well, we have to give some credit to Juventus because, when the starting lineups came out, Bonacea is out with the knock. Girelli's not starting. I think that was so smart because they brought in players that offer a lot of pace to go in behind Lyon. And I think Lyon weren't expecting that. I think, before the game we were saying, I think Juventus are going to be able to get end line, send crosses in, and Lyon have to be really good at box defending. The transition from Juventus, the speed that they had to drive forward, I think was a shock, especially in the midfield for Lyon. They had nobody tracking on those. And even the last one, Lindsay Heaps not tracking the deep runner that ends up crossing it in. There's just so many opportunities where they could have stopped the bleeding that didn't happen. And I think it's a big credit to Juventus and their tactics.
Yeah, Tatiana Pinto was the girl to get the third goal for Juventus. Here's what she had to say after the game.
Yeah, I don't say that we were bad in the second half. We are talking about Lyon, one of the best teams in the world. We expected them to come even more stronger, with more hunger, because they were losing 3-0. So we knew we would suffer. We didn't deserve this draw. I think we deserved the 3 points. The best. We were the only team that wanted to win the game. I'm a bit disappointed, but very, very proud of the team and all of the teammates.
So we knew we would suffer. Is that kind of a sign of we felt a bit intimidated, even though we were 3-0 up? No?
I actually think it's a sign of respect.
No, yeah,
You think?
For sure.
Yeah.
I think if you're 3-0 up against Lyon, you know that you've made them mad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beyond even words can describe.
They were
that
kind of like,
dressing
oh
room.
no, what's going to happen in the second
Yeah.
half?
Sort of like a Arsenal Bayern, you're up 2-0 away from home and you have to expect it. And I kind of credit them for coming out and saying that, that was the narrative, because that should have been. And I think it's okay to suffer. Let's also say that it's okay to suffer without the ball. And they kind of knew that they weren't going to have dominated possession like what they're used to on a domestic standpoint. So I think that's a very honest thing to say at halftime. Yeah, we're going to suffer this next 45 minutes, and credit to them as well. I thought their game plan was absolutely brilliant. Like what you were saying, the first half, staying compact, working on the counter, and then knowing into halftime they were coming up for a huge 45 minutes. And they went till the end. They did. They battled. It took a penalty in the closing moments of a game to let go of the 3 points for them and end with a draw. But it's probably the best anyone's ever given Lyon in this competition so far. So it's a credit to them.
Do you think both sides come out of this game disappointed? Both of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I think if you're Juve and you're up 3-0 at half and then you concede 3 goals in the second half, yeah, it's a big disappointment. But it's a bigger disappointment for Lyon because they were expected to win, not just by 1 or 2. I think they were expected to absolutely crush Juve, and they didn't. But to be fair, I think 1 point is a fair result. It's a 90-minute game. You cannot be good just one half. You have to be good the entire match.
I think you only have to see Wendy Renard's player of the match picture to
She was
really
player of
know.
the match and obviously
She was
wasn't
player
very
of the
happy.
match and did not look happy. And I think that
Deadpan.
goes to show the standard, right, that she has set for so many years, and players that have come before people that are in the dressing room right now, and what it means. And the first 45 minutes were just
Here
nowhere
we are,
near.
right? But she's right behind you, Jen.
Yeah, not impressed.
She was not happy.
And so I think Lyon will be more disappointed, if I'm honest, based on performance-wise. And yes, they got a point, but the first 45 minutes was so poor from a Lyon standpoint. Even just looking at them defensively, I think that's why I want to highlight Wendy Renard, because she's centre-back, and structurally they were crossing over, players out of position, the box defending nowhere near in the frame of the goal.
Yes.
Everything that fundamentals that you spoke about earlier weren't there for Lyon. So for the standard, not surprised to see that image. It did make me laugh.
No, one thing that did make me laugh as well, Jen, is I just want to say something. Your laptop.
Yeah.
What are all these stickers on your laptop?
To be honest, Anna, I'm a little bit embarrassed about it. So if you could
What are they? No, we're not going to break.
I actually have to.
Yeah, what are they? There's like 50,000 stickers.
This one's a BFC one.
Yeah, shout out.
This one's cute. It's the first sellout of the Emirates. 60.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's
What's that
the date.
often wonder?
I was in my this is actually a really old laptop. This is in like my I don't know, early 20s, just traveling.
What does that mean, often
created
wonder?
space.
Oh, like literally just often wander around the world.
Just go for a walk. I don't know.
Okay.
What else have I got?
Maybe we'll get you.
You have those stickers from your early
Laguna
20s?
Beach. I've had this since college.
That
from university when you learn all those amazing French words you've been saying on the
London
show.
Heathrow. airport sticker.
She's been everywhere, hasn't she?
This was when I was traveling California, looking to be. I can't believe this is a segment.
How is that laptop still live?
We need to get you a new laptop.
How's it still going?
Wendy behind you too.
Okay, we need to get you a new laptop. All right then, everyone, we're going to be taking a little break. Going to be chatting all the other matches we saw on match day 4, including the ones in Paris and Oslo, because there was no shortage of goals there as well. Welcome back, everybody. Now, 2 big games. One for Paris FC when they took on Benfica. They were able to win that one 2-0. That now makes them 10th place. So they're into that knockout playoff round. So that was a huge 3 points for them to pick up. And surprisingly, doing very, very well in this year's campaign. On to the next game, Vålerenga versus St. Polten. A disappointing 1 point for Vålerenga, considering they were 2-0 up. And St. Polten hadn't scored a goal up until this match day. Girls, let's talk about Paris FC, though. Huge for them to be able to get the 3 points, and also sitting in 10th place now. They've had a good run to start this year's tournament off.
Yeah, they've looked good. I think this is a team that's grown throughout the tournament. We've seen them, tie, lose their leads, and then to come into this and just look concise, decisive, especially in the attack, and be able to play a 90-minute match. This is a team that has played in Champions League before, and they looked like they were debutants in their first couple of match days. So to come into this and have a strong performance, get on the scoreboard, and be able to hold that lead is a huge win for Paris FC and their confidence going forward.
Yeah, because they blew that win against Real Madrid. It happened in the 96th minute. Real Madrid were able to score. So we were kind of questioning, are they going to be confident going into this game? But it looked like Janelli, they kind of put that behind them.
Yeah, I think they did, like Darian said, right? They came out, performed, they got their 3 points, and then this sets them up pretty well for going into the next match. They have Vålerenga up next, so I think they put themselves in a really good position to make the knockout phase.
Let's move on to Vålerenga then, why don't we? Because it's 2-2 against St. Polten. St. Polten haven't scored a game this whole tournament. For them to give up a 2-0 lead is very disappointing for them.
Yeah, and then miss an absolute sitter in the last
kick
moments
of the game.
Yeah,
they could have won 3-2.
Exactly, and I think those are the moments that, you gave away a 2-0 lead, but I think the game was there for the taking, and I think they'll definitely reflect on that and look at it as 3 points that they've missed out on. But still a point, they can still climb in the ladder and still plenty more football to be played, but I think they'll look at this one as 2 points dropped.
Darren, do you think their keeper and their defence let them down? I mean, up against St. Polten, letting in 2 goals.
Yeah, first of all, credit to St. Polten. Come on. We have to give them a round of applause because they got their first couple of goals. They played a full 90-minute performance. They were able to walk away with a point, which is huge for a team that's been struggling the entire Champions League. As far as Vålerenga, it's very disappointing because against really good opposition, they've been solid. I mean, they haven't had the results, a bunch of wins that they would have wanted, but they've stepped up. The keeper emblem has been incredible throughout this Champions League. And then today it just felt like they let their foot off the gas pedal a little bit. And I don't know if it's dropping to the level of the competition they thought they were playing, but St. Polten came out to play and absolutely deserved that point. And Vålerenga is going to be very disappointed that they dropped the 3 points today.
OK, why don't we take a look at the table just to refresh your memory of where things stand after this match day. There we can see Vålerenga and Paris FC in the knockout round playoffs, but just a margin. So they'll be wanting to push forward in their last 2 games of this league phase. Also got Benfica. They haven't won a game yet. Neither has St. Polten. But someone who did win a game, and the girl who was able to win the game for them today, was Alessia Russo's Arsenal. So here's what she had to say after the game.
Player of the match performance for you and 2 more goals against Real Madrid. How do you feel about the way you played this evening?
Yeah, it was really important to get the win tonight. Probably not got all the results that we wanted in the Champions League, so this one was really important at home, in front of our fans, and it was massive, and happy to get the goals, happy to get the win. Probably should have been a bit more clinical with a couple of sorry, I can't speak, I'm freezing, with a few more chances, but really happy to get 3 points.
How difficult did the Madrid defence make it for you in the first half?
Yeah, it was tough. They're a top side, so it was obviously going to take some time to break them down. So we just kept focusing on areas where we thought we could exploit them. And we did that in the second half.
2-headed goals, how did you feel about them when they went in?
Yeah, obviously really happy. Great balls in, one from Chloe, one from Beth, and one from the corner as well, which we work hard on. Always happy to score, but the 3 points is the most important tonight.
How special are nights like this in the Women's Champions League?
Yeah, it's massive. Look, we felt them so much last year and we want that feeling all over again. So to come back here in Bournemouth on a cold Wednesday night and our fans be as loud as they were is really special.
Thank you very much.
Gosh, I'm so glad I'm not living in England anymore.
I wonder if they could let her inside. They could do this.
I'm cold and I'm here.
I know, bless her. That looked freezing.
Yeah.
But her spirits, obviously, were really, really high. If we compare it to the interviews we had last week from Arsenal, it's a complete different shift. It's great to see, Darian, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, we spoke about her being a leader on this team with her energy, with her production in front of goal, the confidence you can have when, hey, nothing else is working out. Let's whip balls into the 18 and get Alessia on it. She's the player that you can rely on. So to see that she's feeling good, she's cold, but she looks hot on the field, she's putting goals away, gives you a lot of confidence moving forward. And to know that, you kind of touched on morale earlier in the show. She looks like they have a good morale, especially after that win.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was, okay, it wasn't a perfect performance, but they needed that. All that mattered to her was 3 points, so important.
Yeah, we're taking every bit of positivity we can from this game. Okay then, everybody, we're going to be shifting gears after this short break to the US Women's National Team because Emma Hayes announced her roster of the calendar year this morning. So we're going to be talking all of that and breaking it all down. Welcome back, everybody. Now, US Women's National Team head coach Emma Hayes called up 26 players for 2 friendlies against Euro semi-finalist Italy in Florida. A few surprises, a few familiar names. Naomi Girma back in the squad after injury. We've got Lily Johannes there, Rose Lavelle. We're seeing some girls being some familiar faces, but also some new surprises. So we're going to be talking about this roster call-up because it's the last one of the calendar year. Darren, what were your thoughts on the roster that was released this morning?
Interesting. Emma Hayes, you can never predict what she's going to do, and that's why we love her. I think it's refreshing to see a coach like her that gives this team a bunch of energy and opportunity for players that are performing very well, which is exactly what this roster says to me. If you're performing well with your club, you're going to be called into camp. And I think when we look at, especially the midfield, that's what stood out to me, is we have a Corey Bethune back into camp and a Jay Howe. I think since 2022, her first call-up. And to me, she's had an exceptional year in the NWSL. But just look at this. I mean, 6 months ago, we had big concerns about the U.S. midfield. Where's the depth? What happens if, Lindsay Heaps is kind of at the end of her time with the U.S. Women's National Team? Rose Lavelle is out with injury a lot. She's been healthy, knock on wood. So that's not a concern anymore. But now look at this. Sam Coffey, Corey Bethune, Claire Hutton, Jay Howe, Lily Johannes, these young players that are so hungry to come in and make their marks. I think it's a huge compliment from Emma Hayes that, hey, this is the last camp for you to have the ability to show me that you're ready for this, that you can apply the principles, you know the standards of this. And I just love this. I think the more depth, the more competition the U.S. have, the better they're going to be.
What I like about this midfield is it seems pretty balanced. Yeah. I'm glad to see Corey Bethune back in there. I think what she's been doing with Spirit, especially in playoffs, has been amazing. Her ability on the ball to create, she always knows when to find the pocket, when to play a pass forward. She participates early and often in almost every goal. And then Sam Coffey gives them that balance. She's more of the box-to-box player, gritty. So I think they're in a really good position going into this international break.
I'm happy for Jordan Silkowitz. I know we're speaking about midfield, but former BFC teammate, goalkeeper, she's had a brilliant season for BFC, in a difficult season for BFC, shall I say. So to kind of stand out and get a call-up, her first ever. And this is a perfect time to be part of a national team, I think. You still have a lot of time to impress before a major tournament, and this is the experience that the inexperienced players need at this time to get in, get a feel for the culture, get a feel for the dynamics, how the structure of training, how it all works from an international standpoint. And I love it from Emma Hayes. I think if you're performing well at club level and you're merited in that way, speaks volumes.
Is this the camp as well, like you said, Darren, that we're going to be seeing getting prepped for this World Cup? If you're in this camp, then you're kind of in that kind of group that we'll see in 2027.
I think Emma Hayes doesn't play. If you're in camp, this is to prep for the World Cup. It's to see who can take what's being said in training, what's being said in film, the culture that she's implemented, and put it into play consistently in games. So I think, to me, I'm looking at this is the last camp of the calendar year. Next year is all prep. She's going to solidify the players that are consistently going to be in camp that are going to take them to the next level. So I think it's a big statement for these players to come in and show that they can and will apply everything they can. And Emma Hayes is going to have some tricky decisions he has to make, but she has the riches now of seeing what she implemented earlier this year with bringing in such big player pools and this opportunity for the U23s. See Jamise Joseph getting her first call up into the full team. It's huge. So I think she's done such a good job tailoring this squad to be exceptional at the end of the year, and she's got some difficult choices to make.
I have a question. Is this Kate Weisner's first call-up?
This is her second I believe.
Good stats.
I don't think
yeah.
Darren's on.
I was honestly going down the list and I was like, whoa, I'm stoked to see her on this roster. I think she deserves it.
As a defender as well.
As a defender on that left wing, I think what she can provide on the attack is great. Defensively, she has her principles down. So I think this is a great addition to her. I hope she performs well.
Yeah.
What I love about this roster as well, there's no players just making up numbers. I think if you're in this roster coming up with friendlies, you deserve to be there and back your chances to get minutes, because Emma Hayes rotates. And I think especially when you're playing against the same team, Italy, twice, you're not going to play the same 11. It's not you're not in the World Cup. You're not competing at every game matters in terms of performance and winning. This is about getting experience. So you know you're going to get minutes potentially. It's about taking advantage of every single second you get on the pitch.
Also, we're just coming with everything today. When you're playing a team like Italy, who made it to the semis in the Euros, this is a talented squad that, despite not having the best investment from their federation, this is a team that's superseded all of that and been excellent. You have such a challenge in going and playing against Italy because they're going to be transitional. They're going to be aggressive. We got to see a lot of the players that are on the Italian national team play today. And they're going to pose a really big challenge against the U.S. And I think Emma Hayes has tinkered so much and brought players in that the chemistry is the biggest question. And you don't get that unless you go through difficult situations, especially, I think, defensively. Who you're playing against, the push, the pull, the cover, how you communicate. That's what's going to make the U.S. much stronger. And I love that they get to do this against Italy to wrap up the year, because this is what's going to propel this team, and shout out to Italy, them as well, to go forward and do well in the next phase.
Yeah, it'll be a tough game against Italy. How do you think they'll fare against them, Janelli?
It will be. I think they should not underestimate them. We saw what happened against Portugal last FIFA break. U.S. thought it was going to be easy, but they can't do that. I think Italy, like you said, we saw most of their players today on Juve. I think it's going to be a tough match. I think the U.S. is going to get tested, and we're going to see which players individually step up to the challenge.
What I liked about this in the last international window when they played against Portugal, they lost in the first game and then they came back and won, and we kind of saw Emma Hayes come out at the desk, remember, and she was fuming. She was like, "This is not what I expect. This is not what we expect as a team." It was great to see, and hopefully we'll be able to see. Hopefully we won't be able to see them lose, but that grit and determination, even though it's a friendly, it doesn't matter.
No, I wish Kelly was here to react to that.
Well, it's fun to see Kelly's reaction when the U.S. did concede. She pretty much threw the microphone and had her hands on her head.
But I think we talk about top teams, and it doesn't really get much bigger than the U.S. women's national team and the standard and the legacy that they've built. So to kind of be losing.
Are you American now?
He went to college.
I'm getting
Another thing on this roster as well, I mentioned at the start, Naomi Girma back in the squad. We've seen her playing back in the Women's Champions League, and now she's back in the US squad. That's huge, isn't it, Taryn?
Yeah, the US has missed her. She is the player that defines this team, that I think, we're seeing this transition period. She's the player you think of as being the leader, especially from the back. When she's not there, I think we see the mistakes of where they're conceding on set pieces, which it's the U.S. Women's National Team. They do not concede on set pieces. So I think her being back and able to organize, build those relationships, drive the ball forward is going to be very key for them in this window.
And 7 of those 11 players are playing in the NWSL currently, and women's football doesn't stop there, because on Saturday we'll see who's crowned this year's NWSL champions with the Washington Spirit and Gotham FC. Coverage begins from San Jose, California at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on Galazzo Network, with Poppy Miller, Kelly O'Hara, Darian Jenkins and Ali Riley with the match on CBS and streaming on Paramount+. Also, everybody, we've got the second half of Matchday 4 in the Women's Champions League tomorrow. Some very, very exciting games. The marquee matchup being Chelsea taking on Barcelona. Okay, everybody, today, Two perfect records ended. The goals kept coming, and there was an instant classic in Turin. Juventus 3, Lyon 3, and tomorrow it's Chelsea-Barcelona. We can't wait. Our coverage begins at 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you then. Good night.